Hi, I'm Bryan with Duckpedia.com, and I'm going to show you today how you can make your own reusable grass mat for under 15 bucks. Pretty simple, it's well worth your time. Alright guys, well now we're going to get started here. I'll give you an idea of the materials you'll need, and it's really simple stuff. You can get most of the stuff that you need from Walmart or any sewing place. Most sewing places carry burlap. So here we go. First thing you're going to need, obviously you're going to need your burlap. We like to use pieces about 3-4 foot wide by about 6 feet long. And it's just an estimation. It really doesn't need to be exact. It's just however big you need it to be. And that's the nice thing about these mats too, is that if you have a really long boat or you have something that you want a camo that's a big area, you can actually make these camo mats as big as you need them. So they're great for all kinds of things, and they're really cheap, and it'll save you a lot of money if you like using mats for your blinds or for your boat or whatever you need them for. So let's get started here. I'll show you what you need to actually have in order to do this. Alright guys, so now I'm going to show you all the materials that you need. Pretty simple stuff. Tape measure, simple enough. Clippers, pliers, just to cut the zip ties. Bag of regular rubber bands. I think this one's about 100 or 50 in this pack, I don't remember. Just a pack of rubber bands, pretty cheap, easy to get. Pack of zip ties, probably going to need about 100 of those too. This is 1/4 inch elastic banding, and I'll open it up here so you can see. You get this at any sewing place, and Walmart actually carries it too, but a lot of the times they're sold out. So I go to my local sewing store and they have this stuff there. So all it is just regular elastic banding, 1/4 inch, and it helps keep the grass on the mat. Scissors, and this is just burlap that's been torn up and shredded by making these, which are pieces of burlap that start off like this, cut up into strips, and then shredded. I'll show you how to do that too. And last, camo spray paint, if you want to go with different colors for your different camo patterns in different areas where you hunt. Real helpful. Alright guys, now we're going to go ahead and get started. First, we're going to need this, the elastic banding. I've got about 8 yards of this. Now you can use as much as you want, but what I like to do is just get this laid out and get a general idea of about how long your grass mat is. And it doesn't have to be measured, you can just eyeball it. Take the scissors, go ahead and cut it. Now I'm going to do this 2 more times, and since I've already got my piece that I just measured out, I'm just going to go ahead and run it down until I find the other end here. Cut it. Do the same thing, so I got 3 pieces that are about the same size. Now you can put as many of these bands on as you want, but I find you don't really need more than about 3 for this width right here. So what you do, take the very end of it, and you're just going to tie a small loop. So now we're going to take your rubber band, or the elastic band, excuse me, and we're going to attach it to the burlap. Now I just kind of like to lay these out just like this, just so I get a general idea of where I'm going to put them. And you want to get them pretty evenly spaced out. They don't have to be perfect. It's a camo mat that you're going to be hunting with, so don't worry about it too much. So 1 in the middle, 1 up top, and 1 on the bottom. So now what you're going to do, you're going to go ahead and take your zip ties here, and this is the tighter woven burlap, which is definitely something you want to get. You do not want to get the loose woven burlap from a lot of the gardening places. They'll have the real loose stuff, and it just doesn't hold together as well. So you want to get this tighter woven stuff. It works a lot better. But here's what you do, real simple. Take your zip tie, put it through the loop. Okay. And then you're just going to go ahead and take it. Make sure you got this pretty much where you want it. Take the zip tie, put it through the burlap. You just want to pinch it, and then just wiggle it until it goes through, and it's really easy to push it through. And then just zip tie that loop to the burlap. So this way, you get all this stuff attached, but you don't have to sew it. It's a lot quicker, a lot simpler, and I hate sewing, so this is what I do. Alright guys, so now that we've got one end attached, you want to go ahead and straighten these out and just make sure they are laid out like this, as straight as you want them. Pretty much get them laid where you want them put. And then you're just going to go ahead and zip tie the other ends to the other end. We get them all nice and laid out straight. And go ahead and pull it so they're a little bit taut. You don't want to have it completely tight and start pulling this up, because then it won't work. But you do want to have pretty much, you know, all that tension pulled out of the elastic band. Okay, so the next thing what you're going to need to do is you take your zip ties here, and you're going to go ahead and zip tie this loose piece of elastic down to the burlap. And I'm going to do this every 8 to 10 inches or so. I'm just going to eyeball it. These are 8-inch zip ties, so what I do is I just lay it down, get a general idea. So that's 8 inches right there. That'll work. So I'll just go ahead and zip tie this just like this. Okay, go up and through the burlap, pinch it, go through, and just zip tie it. You want to go down the entire length of this, okay, about 8 inches again, pinch it, through the zip tie just like that, and zip tie it down. Now you're just going to go down the entire line, like I said, until this is completely attached to the burlap, and that's going to be the very first step in getting your grass mat to actually hold grass when you're hunting. Alright guys, so now we're outside. We've got our grass mat, or our burlap, with the elastic bands already put on, everything's strapped down, and we cut off the ends of all the zip ties, so it looks pretty clean right now. So the next step, what you're going to need to do, is to make this really blend in just as a base layer. You want to kind of break up the color of that tan, because a lot of the times where you're hunting, it's not going to be just one solid color. So what I like to do, we're up in the mountains here, and we have a whole bunch of pine trees, not a whole lot of grass right now. So we're going to use this to lay down a camo pattern. So what I like to do is just get a little bundle, get the spray paint can, right? We're going to take this, lay it down here, and just kind of go over it real quick in just little spots. All over this mat. This is just a basic way that you can get some camo patterns that are nice and broken up, as opposed to just having solid lines. Now I'm going to use a little bit of black, and this is one color that you do not want to overuse because it'll make your camo really dark, and it may actually make it stand out more, which is obviously the opposite of what you're trying to do. So use black sparingly. Alright guys, so now that you have your grass mat completely done and ready to go with the elastic banding, and it's already been painted, now we need to move on to using this. This is your extra piece of burlap that you're going to use for your 3D camo. What you need to do with this part right here, just take some of this spray paint, same stuff you used for your mat, and just go ahead and put random colors on here, just so when we take this, when we turn it into that 3D camo, you have a lot of different colors that are worked into it. We'll show you how to do that in just a minute. Just go ahead and take your paint it just like this. And just so you guys know, it's not a real pretty camo. Looks pretty basic, but all it is just getting a little bit extra color on this. And you can go with any color that you want, just whatever blends into your area the best. Go ahead and use that. And now we're going to move on to actually cutting this up and turning it into the 3D camo. Alright guys, so now we have our camo here that we just painted. We're going to go ahead and take it and cut it up into small little strips. This is the first thing you want to do. You just want to go ahead and cut these into little strips, maybe about 3-4 inches wide. And just go ahead and do it for the entire thing until you're done. And I'll show you the next step. Okay, don't forget guys, when you're cutting this stuff up, you can go ahead and have real wide stuff and real skinny stuff. Just make it random, because you really don't want to have all one size or it'll look kind of funny. Just go ahead and mix it up a bit, do some small strips and big strips, and then you'll have a pretty good looking pattern. Alright guys, now you can see we have our strips, a little pile of it here. So what we're going to do with these, we're just going to go ahead and take them, cut some in half, cut some into thirds, cut some into fourths. Just start cutting it up into smaller pieces so you get a big random pile of strips. One thing with these longer ones right here, these long skinny ones, if you do cut these, make sure to leave them fairly long, because these side threads, these little threads that are keeping them held together, they can come out pretty easily, and if it's not really long, it'll just fall apart. So you want to make sure to keep them pretty long. Alright, so now we have our pile cut up into even smaller pieces. Now this is where you actually start to get that 3D camo look. So you're going to start taking these small little pieces, and you actually just take these edges, just start pulling them out. Now you're going to have some of these that are just going to fall off, just little strands. That's okay, because we're going to use those right there a little bit later here. And one thing I like to do is actually take these squares right here and just pinch in the middle and pull out towards the edges, and it makes this stuff actually deform because it's in a web formation, the way it's woven. When you pull it apart, it makes it bend and make some really interesting shapes. So basically it creates shadows and it makes better camouflage. So you just want to go ahead and keep pulling these little edges out and fray it up, make it look natural. If you go out in nature and go look at, leaves and reeds and whatnot, you're going to see something that looks probably kind of like that. Just go ahead and do that for all these strips, and you'll be set. Alright guys, so now we have our camo cut up, turned into this 3D stuff. So now what you're going to do is start attaching this to your mat. So, it's real simple. Take your zip ties, take one or two of these, and just start zip tying them to the mat. And you just take the zip tie, you put it through just like you did for these. Lay it down, zip it closed. And this is how you're going to start making that 3D look. Now if you want to make something like just stubble, if you hunt in a field, that's all you have, just little balls of grass or little stubble or whatever it is, you can just take some of this real finely shredded stuff that's the extra, the little parts that fall off of these bigger strips, and just put it in like this. Just kind of pull it apart, make it look all ratty, and start breaking up that pattern. This is the part where you can put on as much of this stuff as you want, and depending on where you're hunting, maybe you only want to put a little bit on, maybe you want to put a lot. Completely up to you, just make it work for wherever you're at. Alright guys, so now we have the last part. All the camo's put on. All you need to do now is put on your rubber bands just for a little added help when you're putting on all your grass. When you're out in the field, this really helps out and just really keep it down tight, and you have a lot more places to attach stuff. So all you're going to do is take your rubber band and you're going to put it on to this elastic strap. You just take the rubber band, put it underneath, and then loop it into itself. Okay? And then just pull it tight. And you're going to do this, and you're going to put however many you want on here. I put maybe 1 or 2 every little section. And it just gives you an extra little area to put grass on if you need to. And it helps hold everything together. After that, your grass mat is completely ready to hunt. Take it out, brush it up, and you're good to go. It's a lot better than a regular grass mat in my opinion, because this is completely solid. You can't see movement through it. With a lot of the grass mats, it has to be extremely thick if you're going to make one that you can't see through, and you have to use a lot of grass, or you have to buy one for 50 bucks. This is what you ought to have when you get your grass mat completely finished. All grassed out, works pretty well. Let us know what you think, guys. Hopefully this helps you get some more birds, and thanks for watching.